Today I would like to talk to you about the Ladder of Inference. The Ladder of Inference was developed by Chris Argyris and Donald Schon, and the purpose of the Ladder of Inference is really to understand people's deeper values and beliefs behind their positions and their statements. So this is a wonderful process to use as a facilitator to really get behind the often conflicting perspectives that members in a group have. They end up debating each other about their positions, but we don't really understand where those are coming from, what beliefs or values are driving those particular positions. So this is a great model and process to use, and it's a framework that the facilitator has in their head. It's not a group process, it's an individual process. So you might use this when two individuals or two groups, factions of a group, both with credibility, get into a place of where they're arguing with each other, but at a very high level. So the way this model works is it's really thought of as actually a ladder of the various levels of an issue. So the facilitator would use this particular approach and process with one faction at a time. And really what you want to do is to be able to walk that particular person or group down kind of the logic behind their position. So you start off with having a person state their position, and then you ask them about, well, what conclusions have you utilized to reach this particular position? And it can be conclusions or assumptions that they have, and then you want to ask them, what experiences in their life have really helped them form these assumptions and conclusions. And then the next step down the ladder has to do with understanding the data, if there is any data that have helped this person form and inform both their experiences and the ultimate assumptions and conclusions that have formed their position. And then you're ready, once you have all of that data, to actually ask them, so what sits behind all of that information in terms of their values and beliefs? And this is the kind of the trickiest jump that's often made, but I have found it a relatively simple jump to really say, so what is the deeper value or belief? And then you want to do a double check. Once they start talking about that value and belief, you want to determine if this is a core value. So you would ask them something like, so do you find that this particular value that you've just spoken about, that's a cross context, not only in this particular position that we're talking about today, but it really surfaces for them in a lot of issues. And if it does, that's the core value, and that's what you're looking for. So you would do that with one individual, and then you would do the same process very quickly, right in the group, with everybody listening, with the other position or faction. The idea is to surface those underlying values and beliefs, and then to find a way to actually honor those two values and belief systems, and to develop new approaches that do honor those. That's what when Stephen Covey talks about in his book, The Third Alternative. When he talks about the third alternative, that's what he's referencing. A new position that's based on shared values and beliefs. And it's not on the same continuum of a point between one position and the other. It's actually a third option. What you're going to watch right now is a video of a demonstration of walking through the Ladder of Inference model. And so please watch this model and be listening for the logical steps of walking this particular person down through their position and eventually reaching their core value. So what's the position that you feel strongly about?
So I run a domestic violence agency, and there was a sheriff in San Francisco who was accused and convicted of battery of his wife, and the board of supervisors there just voted to keep him in his position, and a lot of the advocates felt he should have been let go.
Okay, so you feel that he should have been let go?
Yeah, he's the chief law enforcement officer for the area, and in charge of keeping people safe.
Okay, so what assumptions are you utilizing to reach that conclusion that he should be let go? What's kind of formulating your, so you already shared one, he's the chief law enforcement.
Right.
What else?
Right. Anybody who serves on his staff who does the same thing is automatically let go.
So that's a policy already?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's kind of like, what's that about then? It's not fair, or it's inconsistent?
It's
or
inconsistent, sends a really poor message to victims, I think.
to victims?
Mhm.
Okay. And the message to victims would be, I mean, I can guess this
Yeah.
stuff, but what?
Right.
I'm
The
curious about
message is what's happened to you is not really that serious.
that's the assumption you make about
It could
that.
be a
It could be. You went, I wouldn't
Yeah.
normally do this, but you actually found a feeling
Mhm.
about the message that would be sending to.
Yeah.
And what was that?
And I think as advocates too, we feel very disrespected.
Okay.
Aha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the message is that for the
Yeah.
the person who of all people should not be doing this was doing it.
Mhm.
You know, the chief law enforcement officer for the county of San Francisco. It's not an issue that he already has been convicted. He pled guilty. He did it. He admits it.
And you know for sure that he actually abused his wife.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't a plea bargain or anything like that.
No.
You're sure of that.
No, he's on probation for 3 years, but he did not lose his job. Yeah.
And how does that affect your own work? What's your concern that personally?
It just sets everything back. You know, we've moved forward. We've made a lot of, we have huge efforts for awareness on the issue with the public,
Mhm.
and it just sets it backwards.
So what do you actually see that could happen? What are the setbacks that you're really concerned about? You have some concerns, I mean, significant and real concerns about this, of what will get set back.
That because when a victim presents him or herself to law enforcement, that they will not be taken seriously, that there'll be some blaming of the victim going on when we've tried to do so much education in that regard. It's like this one particular action wiped out a lot of work that people have been doing.
And for you, if I may ask, I'm going to ask this kind of gently, what does that violate for you at the core? Is there a deep value that just...
It invalidates us.
Oh, and just as another check, so it's not fair, it's not just, these are words I'm putting on there, I'm just checking these out.
Mm-hmm.
Sets a poor model.
Mm-hmm.
People can get away with things. I'm just checking, are any of these true?
Right, this is now sort of the idea that's out there.
And people may not come forward anymore around, or fewer people around actually being abused.
Right.
Any of that dynamic at some level true for you at any point in your life? No. Good. Okay. So it's just purely like a professional thing.
Yeah.
So that's not fair. People shouldn't suffer, I'm guessing. They should. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you said, from what we've just talked about, if you just put a sentence on it, what would you say? What would you like to now say about this issue?
There's an injustice to it. I think really underlying all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do injustices, whether it's in this field or other things, kind of really get your goat?
They do.
Oh, okay. Now we're there. And would that be true across many contexts?
Yes.
Perfect.
Fine.
That is, no, not finally. That is the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the core value.
Yeah.
You got it?
Yep.
And did you see the difference? And you knew the difference
Right
when we
away.
hit it. That was it.
Yeah.
So you could be equally outraged about this situation for a very different reason. Is that true?
Yeah, sure.
And that's what so this is why you would want to use the ladder of inference, because imagine the dean and I are these partners on this team, and we're not even talking about this issue, and I'm going, with all due respect, Dina, we're talking about professional learning communities. I think this strategy is the best. And she's going, I've spent, 30 years in education. I think this strategy is the best. That's how we talk in groups. Real high level. We start talking about, I think this person should be fired. That's what I mean by high level. We have no understanding underneath or behind that. The only way we reach a third alternative, to use Stephen Covey's, my position, your position, we need to reach some common position. The common position doesn't have to be a compromise. The powerful third alternative, to use Stephen Covey's, is if we get at the level of the values, we'll find something that honors our values, not the issue. And you would go from there and say, so what kind of strategies could we come up with that honor your highly held core value about justice or injustice in this case, and maybe mind around compassion or something like that. And we start working together to say, well, there's all kinds of different approaches to this issue. Because what's really going on behind the strategy is not the strategy. We're trying to get our values and beliefs honored and met and validated in the world. So welcome back. I hope you found that little video clip interesting with Dina and myself talking about her particular position and ultimately reaching her core value about injustice. And a frequently asked question about actually using this ladder of inference process is, what if I go too far, or I push a person too far? How do I know when I've actually lost permission to continue this process with an individual or a group? And how you know is really the reaction that you get on the person. You'll get an abrupt kind of shift in physiology of that individual. They might pull back, they might turn away from you, they might stop breathing. And I've included this next little video clip to actually demonstrate what that looked like and how to model that right within the same training clip. So please watch this next clip. But how would I know to stop? Besides, I wouldn't want to wait until you told me, because you'll take a while, right? I want to pick it up really early on. So what would I see? So this is critical about observation skills. What might I see? So let's go back to how we were seated. Actually, we're the other way, but that's okay. So we were this way, I think, were we?
I was like,
Okay. So you're going to have to role play a little bit, okay? So you go, I'm getting more than a little uncomfortable with your questions. And so I'll ask a question that would be highly intrusive.
Okay.
So you probably won't even have to know what to do. So, I'd really like to have you tell the whole group the personal experiences that you've had with domestic abuse. Look. So, if you were here, what you would have immediately heard is she stopped breathing. She went. That's what you did, right? You like little puffs. I'm going, okay, she pulled back slightly. Her eyes went down to her
I
feelings.
do this thing.
And she started not breathing very well. You should know you've just crossed the line. But not maybe yet today in the training. And I would want to go, I can see that I would apologize in a moment if it was me, not everybody, and say, I'm sorry, but, I just got curious. That probably wasn't a great question, And I would see, so would you like to, continue on the questions? And she might say, no, that's not. And then you're done. So short answer is, pay attention, be observant, be sensitive, and respect what the person's telling you, verbally and non-verbally. Welcome back again. So now in closure, another common question is, if reaching core values and beliefs is so critical, are there other ways of doing that other than the ladder of inference? And of course the question is, there's a multitude of ways of doing this. Two really quick ideas you can find in the process flashcards. And that is the need set exercise and life stories process. And again, you can find those in the process flashcards, and you can find those on my website. So for more about the resources, whether it be books or flashcards or other video and free resources on these kinds of topics, please come to my website. It's been a pleasure spending a little time with you today, and take good care. Bye now.